$3 billion. Liam leaned back, his voice casual as he named the discount for the multi-billion-dollar port acquisition. His rival, Felix, stared in disbelief. This is the price for you to disappear from my wife's life. Forever. Felix, the man who once patronizingly offered Liam's wife a cheap handbag, now sat opposite a titan who valued her peace of mind at $3 billion. You're insane, Felix choked out. Perhaps, Liam smiled, a chilling glint in his eyes. But insanity is a privilege of the rich. An hour later, a different call came. It was his best friend from college, a man he hadn't spoken to in 4 years out of shame. You bastard, the voice roared. I heard you're broke and divorced. I'm sending you 3,000 yuan. Pull yourself together and win her back. Liam looked at the transfer notification for a sum that wouldn't even cover his dinner, then at the signed $27 billion contract on his desk. His wife thought he was a repentant failure. His friends thought he was a charity case. His enemies thought he was an arrogant upstart. They were all about to learn a very expensive lesson. Never underestimate a man who has already seen the future. Chapter 121. After a pleasant dinner, Liam loaded the dozens of Chanel bags back into the trunk of the Phantom. He had had a fair bit to drink, so Chloe, despite her nerves, took the driver's seat. The multi-million-dollar luxury car glided smoothly into the night under her control. So when are you going to ask Jenna Zhao out so we can all have a chat? Chloe said suddenly, her tone laced with a barely perceptible challenge. Liam's drunkenness vanished in an instant. He almost cried out, my dearest Chloe, what are you trying to pull now? Tomorrow, I'll go buy you every single Louis Vuitton bag in the store. How about that? Chloe giggled, her voice full of sweet triumph. Look how scared you are. All right, I'm just teasing you. I drive slowly, so you should get some sleep. Around 10 o'clock, the car stopped downstairs. A cool autumn breeze made Liam shiver. He gazed at Chloe and asked softly, can I hug you? Without waiting for an answer, he opened his arms and pulled her into a tight embrace. For the first time in over 4 years, Chloe felt just how broad and warm this man's chest truly was. 5 minutes later, she wriggled out of his arms, her face flushed, feeling as if she might melt from happiness. The next morning, at a local breakfast spot, Liam had just taken a bite of a fried dough stick when Zane's call came through. Brother Liam, Stellar Shipyards called me. Who was it? Liam asked calmly. The general manager of the project department, Felix Fong. Liam smiled, the cunning look of a fox that had outsmarted its prey. An interesting fellow. We just met yesterday. He's trying to make a move on your sister-in-law. Just then, another unknown number beeped in. He's calling me now, Liam told Zane, then hung up and answered Felix's call. Felix, my friend. It's barely been a day. Did you miss me already? Liam mumbled through a mouthful of food. My mom's cooking last night was to die for. It's a real shame you didn't stay. On the other end of the line, Felix felt like he was about to cough up blood. He never would have imagined that the man behind Phoenix Marine, the one he had to personally negotiate with, was the same Liam who had utterly humiliated him the day before. He could feel the hair on his head stand on end. This man was an incredible actor. Don't call me friend. I can't bear the honor, Felix said through gritted teeth. There you go again, being a stranger. We're kindred spirits, you and I. Lynn, are you even human? You knew I was from Stellar Shipyards, but you didn't tell me you were behind everything in Jade Hill Village. Do you find this amusing? You've got it all wrong, my friend. I told you yesterday we had opportunities to cooperate. You just didn't take me seriously. Liam's tone was pure innocence. Amidst Felix's roars of frustration, they agreed to meet at the Clarity Cafe. Half an hour later, Felix walked into the cafe with a dark expression. Liam greeted him warmly and even thoughtfully ordered him a glass of plain hot water. Felix stared at the steaming glass, feeling like his lungs were about to explode. Lynn, you're quite the actor, aren't you? Felix finally dropped the pretense. Driving a Phantom but admiring my BMW? Buying Chloe an entire store's worth of bags but pretending you've never seen the world? Is there anyone who can act better than you? Liam shrugged, a hint of mockery in his smile. Because I have money. As for that bag, even though it's only 30,000, to me it's basically garbage. But it was a kind gesture from you, my friend. I couldn't let Chloe reject you to your face, could I? You? Felix was speechless. He tried to regain ground from a business angle. Right now, you're probably just a puppet for Zane Zhou and the others, aren't you? Liam's smile vanished. He leaned forward, his eyes as sharp as a hawk's, and stared at Felix. He asked, one word at a time, do you think it was polite to give Chloe a bag right in front of me? In that moment, Felix felt like he was facing not a man, but a waking beast. The immense pressure was suffocating. He tried to argue, but was silenced by Liam's next words. If it weren't for this project, you wouldn't even have the right to exist in my world. Liam leaned back in his chair, his tone casual, but his words carrying unshakable resolve. Felix, my friend, have you heard the old Chinese proverb? How can a sparrow understand the ambitions of a swan? Felix finally calmed down, knowing he had been utterly defeated in terms of presence. He took a deep breath and got to the point. Fine, let's talk about the acquisition price. Please, go ahead, Liam said, his cheerful demeanor returning. For the 2,466 sea cucumber sheds, how much compensation are you asking for each one? Without thinking, Liam held up 5 fingers. 5 million. How much? Felix shot up like a scalded cat. The cost of one shed is less than 300,000, and you're asking for 5 million? Are you insane? Liam shook his head gently. My friend, do you know the production cost of an $8,000 bottle of Matai liquor? 100 or 2, at most. Do the people who buy it care about the cost? No, they care that they need it. My cost has nothing to do with my asking price. Then, what about the sea territory? Felix's voice was already trembling. The port construction will probably take up 300 square nautical miles. How about this? Liam mused for a moment, then gave his final offer. 50 million per square nautical mile. That should do it. Chapter 122. Felix stormed out of the Clarity Cafe, the scalding hot water he'd barely touched still seeming to burn his throat. He wasn't sure if his rage was directed more at Chloe or at Liam's extortionate offer. Perhaps it was both. Liam's life, meanwhile, proceeded as planned. Hugo Han officially joined Phoenix Pharmaceuticals, where Victor Zhang's team was already deep in research. Julian Jean and Yun Jiujuan were each laying the groundwork for his future entertainment empire. That afternoon, he drove out to Jade Hill Village. He was greeted at his Uncle Hai's home by his aunt, Gwen Shun, whose enthusiasm had multiplied tenfold since she learned of Liam's wealth. After a few pleasantries, Liam asked his uncle to call over his other uncle, Hua. He knew what the two men were waiting for. Their work supervising the construction of the sea cucumber sheds was finished, and it was time to settle their wages. Amidst their polite refusals, Liam simply took out his phone and transferred $500,000 to each family. Seeing the string of zeros in the text message confirmation, both families were overwhelmed with excitement. This single payment was more than they had earned in a lifetime at sea. Gwen and the other aunt, Diane, seized the moment to cautiously bring up job prospects for their children. Of course, the company needs a couple of accountants, and it's always better to keep things in the family, Liam agreed with a smile. He also arranged for his two uncles, now in their 50s, to have easier, more stable jobs at the pier. The room was flooded with words of gratitude. As his aunts marveled that the Chun family ancestors must be smiling down on them, Liam took his leave and drove to the sea cucumber farm. The head technician, Yana Yang, a capable woman in her mid-30s, looked at Liam with pure admiration. She reported that the sea cucumber seedlings were growing far better than expected. The superior water quality of Azure Bay, combined with a no-expense-spared approach, had resulted in incredible growth. Yana suggested harvesting after the new year, which could increase the yield 5 or 6-fold, but Liam shook his head. His internal timeline was clearer than anyone's. In just over 20 days, the massive snowstorm set to hit Daxing City would provide the perfect opportunity to cash in. It was already 4 in the afternoon when he left the farm. Liam called Nico Hong and asked him to get the contact information for Preston Pang, the CEO of Sparrow Media. He wanted to pave the way for Yun Jiujuan, and the hottest variety show at the moment, China's Hot Hits, was the perfect launchpad. Nico was efficient. Half an hour later, Preston Pang's number was in his hands. When the call connected, Liam got straight to the point, introducing himself as the chairman of Phoenix Entertainment. He proposed that his artist, Yun Jiujuan, participate in the second season of the show, and that he was expected to place high. Preston Pang was an old hand at this game. He paid lip service to fairness and impartiality while trying to gauge Liam's resources. Liam didn't press the issue, instead changing the subject and dropping a bombshell. I hear Sparrow Media is preparing to go public? Pang's breathing hitched. He had kept this information under tight wraps. The fact that Liam knew meant his connections were formidable. I'm willing to invest $100 million to purchase pre-IPO shares in Sparrow Media. Liam's voice was calm, but carried unquestionable authority. $100 million. For Pang, who was struggling to raise capital for the IPO, this was a godsend. After 3 long minutes of silence, Pang finally spoke, his voice a little hoarse. What place? First, $200 million for 5% of the shares. Liam smiled. He knew Pang was scared, trying to pull him into sharing the risk. But Liam was seeing a future that was already set in stone. How about $800 million for 20% of the shares, Mr. Pang? On the other end of the line, Liam could hear Pang's ragged breathing. He could hardly believe his ears. Finally, his voice trembling, he said, If you have time, Mr. Lin, perhaps we could meet in person. Day after tomorrow, 9 in the morning, at Sparrow Media headquarters. After hanging up, Liam called Yun Jiujuan. The musical genius was so excited by the news that he was nearly incoherent. Liam offered a few words of encouragement, telling him to prepare. His time was coming soon. The quiet, awkward genius might lack social skills, but with his talent and Liam's capital, he was about to shake the entire music industry to its core. That night, Felix's call came as expected, his voice tight, with suppressed anger. I reported your asking price. The company executives unanimously rejected it. Then why are you calling me, Felix? Liam's voice held a hint of amusement, as if he were toying with a trapped animal. Cut the crap, Felix practically shouted. Tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, same cafe. And I like cappuccinos, not plain hot water. The next day, at the Clarity Cafe, Felix's expression softened slightly as he looked at the meticulously prepared cappuccino and dessert on the table. But Liam wasn't done with him. Chloe's father called me yesterday. He said you've treated them well these past couple of years. Out of respect for that, I'm willing to make a concession. Felix's spirits lifted. How much of a concession? I'll knock 100,000 off each sea cucumber shed. Felix nearly crushed the coffee cup in his hand. For over 2,000 sheds, that was a discount of less than 250 million, a drop in the bucket compared to the total price of over 27 billion. Liam, if the company was willing to spend that much, why wouldn't they just build somewhere else? Felix tried one last time to fight back. Liam leaned forward, his eyes sharp, and methodically analyzed the geographical advantages of Jade Hill Village, the construction costs, the government subsidies. Every sentence was like a precision scalpel, dissecting the core of Stellar Group's decision-making process and completely dismantling Felix's final bargaining chip. Felix realized with horror that the man sitting across from him had already calculated everything, down to the last detail. Seeing the silent Felix, Liam suddenly smiled and threw out an astonishing condition. I suggest you stop pursuing Chloe. If you promise to disappear from her life, completely and forever, then I can make another concession on the sea territory issue. How much? Felix asked instinctively. I'll reduce the price by 10 million per square nautical mile. Felix sucked in a sharp breath. 300 square nautical miles. That was 3 billion. He was being offered $3 billion to give up on a woman? This was insane. In Liam's eyes, was Chloe truly more important than $3 billion? Liam, business is business, and personal matters are personal matters. Don't mix them up, Felix said through gritted teeth, rejecting the humiliating gift. All right then. Liam's smile vanished, his voice turning to ice. In that case, consider the discount on the sea territory withdrawn. Go back and tell your superiors that I will only negotiate this matter with you. Either they accept my price, or they can start looking for a new location. With that, Liam stood up and left, leaving Felix alone to drown in the bitterness of his coffee and an unprecedented sense of defeat. After handling company matters, Liam drove the Phantom to Chloe's complex in the evening to wait for her. He called her, his voice full of mock fatigue and grievance as he complained about his busy day, which drew light laughter from Chloe, who promised to reward him well that night. His wait was interrupted by the roar of an engine. A fiery red Porsche Panamera, like a burning flame, pulled up next to his Phantom. The door opened, and a stunning woman with sunglasses stepped out. Jenna Zhao. Are you that afraid to see me? Jenna's voice held a trace of sorrow. Liam's heart sank. He got out of the car and stood in front of her, his expression more serious than ever before. Jenna, we need to talk. He didn't beat around the bush. He told her everything. The debt he owed Chloe, his determination to make it all up to her, and his plan for them to remarry by the end of the year. Every word was a knife in Jenna's heart. Why can't you leave me even a little bit of hope? Tears streamed silently from behind her sunglasses. Because you can't force feelings, Liam's voice was soft but firm. I love Chloe, and I only love Chloe. No one can ever replace her. My love for her isn't just about debt and guilt, do you understand? You're a wonderful woman, but the person who will cherish you isn't me. If Chloe didn't exist in this world, would you be with me? She asked her final question. Liam closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his gaze was as unyielding as iron. No. Jenna swayed on her feet. In the end, she said nothing, simply turning and getting back in her car. The red sports car sped away, carrying a shattered heart with it. Liam irritably lit a cigarette and leaned against his car. As he went to flick the ash, he suddenly realized that Chloe was standing right outside the car door, her hands behind her back, her head tilted, a brilliant and complex smile on her face. Chloe was standing right outside the car door, her hands behind her back, her head tilted, a brilliant and complex smile on her face. Rejecting such a perfect woman, she asked softly, does it break your heart, just a little? Liam looked at Chloe standing outside the car, her smile playful, and felt a wave of panic. You heard all that. You guess, Chloe blinked, deliberately mimicking his earlier tone and putting on a voice. I love Chloe, and I only love Chloe. Even if Chloe didn't exist in this world, I wouldn't like you, Jenna Zhao. All right, that's enough. Liam, half annoyed and half amused, jumped out of the car and gave her a light pat on the backside. Still want to make fun of me? Yes, I do. Chloe tilted her blushing face up, defiant. Liam stared at her for a few seconds. Then, with lightning speed, he pulled her into his arms, lowered his head, and kissed her fiercely on the lips. In that instant, Chloe's body trembled as if struck by lightning. Her mind went blank. The entire world seemed to dissolve, leaving only his passionate embrace. After what felt like an eternity, a soft cough sounded nearby. It was their neighbor, Mrs. Wong. Chloe snapped back to reality. Her face beat red and pushed Liam away, hiding behind him, too embarrassed to look up. After an awkward exchange, they were warmly invited to the Wang's home for dinner. At the table, Liam and Mr. Song, Mrs. Wang's husband, drank together. After several bottles of a strong local liquor, they were both flushed and bleary-eyed. Liam rambled on, promising to buy Mr. Song an endless supply of fine wine and Mrs. Wang a lifetime's worth of bird's nest soup, which earned him several sharp pinches on his waist from a mortified Chloe. At 9:30, Chloe finally managed to drag the dead-drunk Liam back to her apartment and heave him onto the bed. Chloe, he mumbled, his eyes closed, grasping at the air and calling her name. Chloe hesitated for a moment before placing her hand in his. He grabbed it instantly, pulling her down into his arms and holding her tight, as if afraid she would disappear. In the darkness, she could hear him repeating over and over, "I'm sorry. Chloe, I'm so sorry. I love you. I really love you." Chloe lay on his warm chest, listening to his steady heartbeat, feeling his complete and utter reliance on her. The final wall around her heart crumbled. She gazed at his sleeping face, a gentle smile on her lips, and whispered back, so softly it was almost silent, "I love you too." The next morning, Liam woke with a pounding headache, annoyed that he had wasted such a golden opportunity to spend the night. At the table, Chloe had already prepared a hot breakfast. In the warm atmosphere, Liam, for the first time, systematically explained his business empire to her, especially his plans for the entertainment industry. The entertainment industry is just a plaything for capital, he said between mouthfuls, already strategizing. To the investors, celebrities are just tools for making money. What I'm doing now is climbing onto that capital stage, the one where I can pull all the strings. Chloe looked at him, momentarily lost in a daze. At 8:30, at the Seascape City Airport, Dexter Xiong was already waiting with a Mercedes G-Wagon. With him was Liam's newly hired head of administration, Irene Sheen, a former executive from the Grand Rainbow Group. "Brother Liam, you bought another Phantom? Why didn't you call me?" Dexter complained as soon as he saw him, his familiar and friendly tone secretly astonishing Irene. In the car, Dexter excitedly talked about Phoenix Marine's terrifying profits and Liam's near robbery of a compensation demand from Stellar Group. $4.9 million for one sea cucumber shed, and $12 billion for 300 square nautical miles of sea. Irene listened, her mouth dry. She was only now realizing just what kind of unfathomable business empire she had joined. This young Mr. Lin was far more formidable than she had ever imagined. At 9 o'clock sharp, the G-Wagon pulled up in front of Sparrow Media headquarters. The CEO, Preston Pang, was already waiting, a whole speech of business pleasantries prepared. However, when he saw Dexter Xiong get out of the driver's seat, the smile on his face froze, replaced by shock and nervousness. As a local Seascape City entrepreneur, he certainly knew who this city's most powerful young man was. "Mr. Lin, Mr. Xiong, welcome." Pang's voice trembled. He knew that the upcoming negotiation was no longer a simple business partnership, but the arrival of a capital force he could only look up to. Preston Pang personally escorted Liam's group to the elevator, his face a mask of humility. A few moments earlier, in front of his entire staff, he had solemnly announced that this impossibly handsome young man had invested $800 million to become Sparrow Media's second-largest shareholder. At that moment, the faces of all the artists in the office, who considered themselves industry veterans, were a mixture of shock and envy. They finally understood that some people are simply born in Rome. At noon, in a private restaurant arranged by Dexter Xiong, Irene Sheen got her first real taste of how the top echelons of society operated. During the meal, Liam discreetly passed Dexter a menu on which he had written 2 names. Dexter understood immediately. This seemingly casual gesture was enough to cause significant waves in Seascape City. Irene knew she had made the right choice in following this man. Unfortunately, a torrential downpour grounded all flights, forcing Liam to stay an extra night in Seascape City. From his luxurious Riverview hotel room, he received a video call from Chloe. Little Sophie chirped Daddy in her sweet voice, while Chloe, feigning nonchalance, asked for a tour of his room. Liam, amused and exasperated, showed her every corner to prove his innocence. Just then, Dexter knocked and entered with food and drinks, loudly announcing, "The girls are ready. 10 for you and 10 for me," which made Chloe burst out laughing on the other end of the call. After hanging up, Dexter produced a new menu. On it were written only 2 words, "Thank you." Liam burned it, and the 2 men shared a look of understanding. Outside, the rain poured down. Liam stared at the churning river and murmured, "This will be the last rain of the year." He turned to Dexter, his eyes gleaming. "After this rain, the winter this year will be exceptionally cold. The day the first snow falls is the day we reel in our net." The next morning, on the flight back to Azure Bay, the air was already cold. Irene Sheen presented Liam with a portfolio of talent she had compiled overnight. Among them, the CFO of Lingnan Group, Mei Yu, a genius sidelined by office politics, caught Liam's attention. Bring her over, Liam decided on the spot. She can build the finance department for Phoenix Pharmaceuticals. The core team of the Phoenix Group was taking shape with astonishing speed. He had just returned to his apartment when Felix Fang's call came through. His voice was weary but serious. Do you have a moment? Come to the Dashin building. The head of Stellar Group's entire China division is here. The final negotiation? Liam raised an eyebrow, then smiled. After all this time, it was finally coming to a head. He immediately called Irene and drove over. In the car, Irene suggested it was time for him to hire a driver and bodyguards, for his own safety and for his family's. The thought of Chloe and Sophie made Liam's heart stir, and he nodded in agreement. The Dashin building was Stellar Group's temporary office. Liam knew that today he would be facing the true decision-maker of this massive business empire. This high-stakes game, involving tens of billions of dollars, was about to reach its endgame. On the 26th floor of the Dashin building, the air in the conference room was frozen. The air conditioning was on full blast, but couldn't quell the invisible tension. The head of Stellar Group's China division, a blonde, blue-eyed man named Trenton, smiled in fluent Mandarin, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Next to him, Felix Fang's face was a tight mask. Mr. Lin, your appetite is a bit large, Trenton began. We were hoping for another concession on the price. Liam leaned back in his chair, as relaxed as if they were discussing the weather. I've already conceded over $3 billion. Isn't that enough? He smiled faintly, then changed tack. However, on account of Mr. Fang's good name, I can take another 100,000 off each sea cucumber shed, and another 10 million off each square nautical mile of sea territory. Felix's face instantly went pale. He could feel Trenton's gaze on him, now laced with suspicion. A concession worth billions, just for Felix Fang's good name? Liam had just effortlessly branded him a corporate traitor. Liam, Felix hissed through clenched teeth. This is absurd. Do you know what kind of meeting this is? A personal relationship? Liam feigned surprise. Oh, that's right, I forgot. Mr. Fang has had his eye on my wife for the past 2 years. Does this mean Stellar Group had already decided on Jade Hill Village long ago, which is why you visited Azure Bay so often? He spread his hands innocently. Mr. Fang, you've gone to so much trouble. If this deal goes through, I must pay you a personal visit to express my gratitude. It was a masterful stroke of psychological warfare. Felix felt like he was about to faint. Any defense he could offer now would sound weak and pathetic. What a load of crap. Liam suddenly shot to his feet, slamming his palm on the conference table with a deafening crack. The sudden explosion of fury startled everyone. Even Irene Sheen instinctively tugged at his sleeve. The next second, Liam sat back down, his smile returning as if the outburst had been a hallucination. My apologies. I just wanted to point out that 2 years ago, my wife and I were still married. If we must label things, Mr. Fang was attempting to be a homewrecker, a man of poor character. Trenton used the excuse of consulting with headquarters to lead his team out of the room, leaving Liam alone with a livid Felix. Liam, you are a despicable man. Despicable. Liam's smile vanished, replaced by an bone-chilling cold. He tapped his fingers on the table, each sound a hammer blow to Felix's pride. I warned you to stay away from Chloe. When I'm being polite, I call you Brother Fang. When I'm not, you're nothing but a dog in my eyes. You think you're so successful because you can afford an $80,000 BMW? You think you're untouchable because you're a general manager? Use that pig-filth-filled brain of yours and think for a moment. The compensation for one of my sheds is more than your salary for years. In terms of looks, I'm no worse than you. In terms of wealth, can you catch up to me in several lifetimes? In terms of social standing, I'm the chairman of 5 companies. Tell me, Fang, what do you possibly have to compete with me? Liam stood, looking down at him, his voice as cold as a blade. Your so-called love is just the bitterness of not getting what you want. This is my final warning. Don't make trouble for yourself. Just then, Trenton's team returned, professional smiles back in place. Mr. Lin, your price is too high? Headquarters still cannot accept. Then forget it. Liam turned to leave without a second thought. This was the third and final negotiation. When I walk out this door today, I will refuse to meet with anyone from your company again. He walked toward the door, each step landing on the frantic beat of their hearts. Irene's heart was in her throat. A $20 billion deal, and he was just walking away? Just as Liam's hand was about to touch the doorknob, Trenton's defeated sigh came from behind him. Mr. Lin, please come back. We agree to your terms. That afternoon, Dexter Xiong, the most influential young man in Seascape City, landed at Azure Bay Airport with 2 large cases of premium gifts. Liam took him straight to his parents' home. When Dexter greeted his parents with a wide smile and presented Chloe with sets of La Mer, Lancôme, and Estée Lauder, the whole house filled with a joyous energy. Aaron and Felicity Lin looked at this polite, generous young man, then at their own son, who could now decide the fate of billion-dollar deals, and were overcome with emotion. Sophie giggled, hugging a new toy from Dexter. Ethan looked at this big brother, who had gifted him a multi-million-dollar car, with pure adoration. And Chloe, watching Liam surrounded by friends and family, confident and radiant, had never smiled so brightly. She knew that the man who had once disappointed her so deeply had truly returned. He had come back, cloaked in glory, to build a new world for her and for their family. As night fell, the private dining room at the Oceanus Hotel was ablaze with light and filled with a feverish excitement. The long table was laden with exquisite dishes, and expensive red wine swirled in crystal glasses. This celebration was the ultimate reward for over a month of risks and hard work. At 5 o'clock that afternoon, the 6 shareholders of Phoenix Marine had signed their names to the contract worth over $20 billion. At that moment, Felix Fong stood to the side, watching the almost fanatical respect that Zane, Dexter, and Nico showed Liam, and all his own bitterness and confusion dissolved into a silent sigh. Now, at the table, Nico Hong was particularly animated, not just because of the impending fortune, but because Clara Lynn was sitting nearby. His blatant attempts to flirt with her made her flustered and drew good-natured laughter from the group. "I propose a toast." Hugo Hahn stood up, interrupting Nico's one-man show. "To a great step forward for Phoenix Marine, and to welcome our friend Dexter." Glasses clinked, the crisp sound echoing the pure joy in everyone's hearts. Leo Lee, a middle-aged man who had spent half his life navigating the business world, was flushed with excitement. He raised his glass, his voice booming. "In just over a month, Brother Liam has led us to riches. This toast must be for him. To Brother Liam." Everyone, including the usually reserved Clara, stood up, their eyes fixed on him. Liam also stood, looking around at the familiar faces. He began to speak, his voice steady and strong. "While you were helping me, I was also relying on you. We're brothers, so let's not say such things. This toast isn't to me. It's to us, to the past, and to the future. I hope we never forget where we started, and stay true to ourselves until we're old." His words ignited a fire in their hearts more effectively than any grand speech could have. The glasses were raised again and drained in one go. At the other end of the table, Leo Lee's wife, Vivian, a woman dripping in gold jewelry, was whispering with Chloe. She was sharing her own tips on managing a husband, while curiously asking just how much money they had actually made. The question made everyone turn to Leo. Far from being embarrassed, Leo sat up straight and proudly took out his phone to do the math. "As of right now, I should have made around $1.5 billion. $1.5 billion. Vivian's shriek silenced the room for a second, before it erupted into even louder chaos. She excitedly planted a kiss on her husband's cheek, her mind already racing with ways to spend this heaven-sent fortune. The dinner ended in laughter. On the way home, the Phantom moved smoothly through the city's neon-lit streets. It was quiet in the car, and Chloe could sense that Liam seemed a little down. "What's wrong? You seem distracted," she asked softly. Liam was silent for a long time before he spoke, his voice tinged with reminiscence. "Chloe, do you remember Hector Zhang and Vincent Liu?" Chloe's heart skipped a beat. They were Liam's best friends from college, an indispensable part of her own youthful memories. After graduation, as Liam spiraled downwards, he had single-handedly buried that once pure friendship. "You missed them?" "It was my fault." Liam's voice was full of regret. "After we graduated, they all got their lives on track. Only I was too ashamed to contact them." Chloe slowed the car, her voice gentle. "When you had no money, you cut contact because you didn't want to drag them down. Now that you're successful, why can't you reach out? True friends won't be jealous. They'll only be happy for you. They don't care if you have money. They care if there's still a place for them in your heart." Her words were a warm beam of light that cut through the darkest corner of Liam's mind. He turned and looked at her deeply. In the whole world, no one understood him better than she did. The next day, the Phoenix Pharmaceuticals Industrial Park was officially completed. Liam stood before the magnificent complex of buildings as the sun glinted off the 4 golden words, Phoenix Pharmaceuticals, a sense of immense pride swelling within him. This was the cornerstone of his empire. After inspecting the labs and forcibly sending the research fanatic Victor Zhang home to rest after 3 sleepless nights, Irene Sheen introduced him to 2 key figures: her cousin, the national accounting champion Mei Yu, and Mei's husband, market risk assessment expert Gavin Tan. The couple had been hesitant about changing jobs, but when they saw the sprawling, state-of-the-art industrial park, a veritable work of art, all their doubts vanished. They knew that a new business titan was about to rise here, and they would have the privilege of being its first architects. The celebration dinner at the Oceanus Hotel reached its peak under the crystal chandeliers, the air rich with the aroma of fine food and wine. This feast was the reward for a month of thrilling risks. Nico Hong rubbed his bald head, excitedly playing the host, while Hugo Han, Zhang Zhou, and Dexter Xiang laughed and clinked their glasses. Leo Lee, a veteran of the business world, was flushed with excitement. "Chloe, I heard you and Liam got divorced? Are you crazy?" Leo's wife, Vivian, a plump woman adorned with gold, whispered to Chloe. "A man this handsome and successful is impossible to find." She offered her advice on managing a husband while probing about their recent earnings. Everyone turned to Leo. Far from being embarrassed, he sat up straighter, proudly calculating on his phone. Right now, I've probably made about 1.5 billion. 1.5 billion. Vivian's shriek was like a spark in hot oil, instantly igniting the room's atmosphere. She excitedly kissed her husband's cheek, already dreaming of how to spend their newfound fortune. All eyes turned to the man of the hour, Liam. He stood and looked at the familiar faces around him, his voice steady. We are brothers. This toast is not for me, but for us. To the past and to the future. I hope we never forget where we started and stay true to ourselves until we're old. His heartfelt words stirred them more than any grand pronouncement. Glasses were raised and emptied. On the drive home through the city lights, Chloe sensed Liam's quiet mood. What's wrong? She asked. After a long silence, he spoke, his voice nostalgic. Chloe, do you remember Hector Zhang and Vincent Liu? They were his best friends from college, a part of his past he felt too ashamed to face after his downfall. Chloe slowed the car, her voice soft. When you were down, you stayed away so you wouldn't be a burden. Now that you're successful, why not reach out? True friends will only be happy for you. They care if you still have a place for them in your heart, not your wallet. Her words were a warm light in a dark corner of his soul. He looked at her, knowing no one understood him better. The following days were a whirlwind. On October 21st, the Phoenix Pharmaceuticals Industrial Park was completed. Standing before the magnificent complex, Liam felt a surge of pride. This was the cornerstone of his empire. Through Irene Sheen, he successfully recruited the financial genius Mei Yu and her husband, risk assessment expert Gavin Tan. Upon seeing the state-of-the-art facility, any hesitation they had about joining vanished. On October 28th, a cold front swept across much of the country. At home, snow swirled outside the windows, but inside it was warm. Liam and Chloe sat close, watching the snow, reminiscent of a snowy day early in their relationship. His parents cooked, Ethan played video games, Clara scrolled through her phone, and Sophie begged Chloe for bites of lamb from the hot pot. This simple, warm scene brought a lump to Liam's throat. This was the happiness he was fighting to protect. The next day, a call from Zane confirmed that the sea cucumber industry in Daxing City had been completely wiped out. It was time to reel in the net. Liam gave the order. Sell the seedlings at 1,000 per pound and liquidate all dried sea cucumber stock at 9,800 per pound. Another week passed. On November 5th, all the shareholders gathered again at the Phoenix Marine office, the air thick with anticipation. Clara held the financial report, her voice trembling with excitement. Gentlemen, Phoenix Marine's total cost for this venture was $3.31 billion. Total revenue was $36.25 billion. The net profit is $32.94 billion. A collective gasp sucked the air out of the room. Clara took a deep breath and announced the final distribution. Mr. Lin's personal profit is $11.7 billion. Mr. Zhou and Mr. Hong, $5.83 billion each. Mr. Han and Mr. Xiang, $3.5 billion each. And Mr. Li, $2.32 billion. As the numbers settled, the world seemed to fall silent. After a long moment, Clara looked at the stunned faces and broke into a brilliant smile. Gentlemen, you're rich. When Clara's trembling voice finished reading the astronomical profit figures, the Phoenix Marine office fell into a dead silence. 11.7 billion, 5.8 billion, 3.5 billion. Each number was a hammer blow to their hearts. I'm only 26 years old, and I'm almost a billionaire 10 times over. Nico Hong shot to his feet, his voice filled with a delirious joy. He felt like he was in a dream, an absurdly lavish and insane dream. Brief shock gave way to uninhibited celebration. However, when Clara mentioned the tax implications of the compensation payout, the atmosphere shifted subtly. Everyone knew this was a massive tax bill that could potentially be creatively managed. Clara even dutifully suggested using charitable donations as a tax write-off. It's true we don't want to spend extra money, Liam's voice was quiet, but it cut through all the chatter. But we must understand that charity and paying taxes are two completely separate things. He looked around at everyone, his expression more serious than ever. It's fine to be charitable, but if we use it to avoid taxes, we betray the very meaning of the word charity. From this day forward, Phoenix Marine will distinguish between the two. We will pay the taxes we owe, and we will perform the charity we wish to. His words were resolute. Nico Hong was the first to agree, suggesting they establish a Phoenix Marine Charitable Foundation. Liam made the final decision, and everyone unanimously agreed to contribute 5% of their net profits to this new foundation. They would make money, but they would not lose their conscience. After the meeting, everyone dispersed to process their life-changing fortunes. The first person Liam called was Chloe. Honey, your husband's net worth has just officially surpassed 10 billion. His voice was full of boyish pride. On the other end of the line, Chloe let out a soft gasp of surprise. She didn't ask for specifics, only saying quietly, I just don't want you to be so tired, running around everywhere. always having to calculate how much you've earned and how much you've spent. Her simple words warmed Liam's heart more than any praise could have. He knew that no matter how high he flew, this woman would always be his safe harbor. That afternoon, Liam went to the completed pharmaceutical industrial park. Rows of new workshops stood gleaming in the sun, interspersed with green belts. Above the Grand South Gate, the 4 golden words, Phoenix Pharmaceuticals, shone brightly. This was the beginning of his next empire. In Mayhew's office, Liam confirmed his current liquid assets now exceeded $11.3 billion. The newly appointed CFO was already reeling. She had never seen anyone so young with such a terrifying amount of cash flow. After dealing with finances, Liam went to the high-security laboratory. The research fanatic, Victor Zhang, looked like he hadn't slept in days, his eyes shot with blood. Seeing Liam, he proudly presented a test tube. Mr. Lin, this is the result of our work over the past 20-odd days. A semi-finished product. Victor's voice was hoarse with excitement. We tested it on 12 flu patients of different ethnicities. 10 of them recovered completely within 1 day. Liam's eyes flashed with a brilliant light. He knew exactly what this meant. But it's not enough. Victor shook his head decisively, his face a mask of near-obsessive passion. My ideal result is a universal cure that works within 3 hours. Mr. Lin, I know you've invested billions and want to see a return. But I'm begging you, give me a little more time. I swear, I won't let you down. Liam watched him for a moment, then smiled. Victor, in your eyes, am I a capitalist or an entrepreneur? He didn't wait for an answer. I didn't start Phoenix Pharmaceuticals just for the love of it. But it's not just about the money either. Like you, I've known poverty and darkness. I know that feeling of powerlessness. I can't stand to see people suffer. He stood up, walked over to Victor, and clapped him on the shoulder, his voice becoming incredibly earnest. Do what you need to do. I will always support you. You work on easing their physical pain, and I'll work on easing their financial burden. That is our true purpose. Victor's body jolted, his eyes instantly turning red. He gave Liam a deep bow. In that moment, he knew he was working for the right man. As Liam watched Victor return to the lab with renewed determination, he sighed quietly. He knew he had just nudged the gears of history. Just then, his phone rang with a piercing tone. It was an unknown number. Hello. A calm, elderly voice came from the other end. Young Lin, this is Walter Zhou. The voice on the other end was calm and elderly. It was the patriarch of the Zhou family, Walter Zhou. Mr. Zhou, Liam's voice unconsciously took on a respectful tone. What? Is an old man like me not allowed to call you? Walter joked. That's not what I meant. I'm just pleasantly surprised, Liam explained quickly. All right, enough of that. Do you have time this evening? Come to my courtyard for a drink. Oh, and Zane's father will be here too. That last sentence, dropped so casually, made Liam's heart skip a beat. Marcus Zhou, the top official in Azure Bay City, the man who, in his foreknowledge, was destined to reach the pinnacle of power. He knew this wasn't just a family dinner. It was a true acceptance and a test. He didn't waste a moment. After hanging up, he drove straight to the seafood market, carefully selected several live king crabs and lobsters, and then headed for the Zhou estate. As the Phantom moved smoothly down the road, another unknown number suddenly called. Who is this? Lin, I'm going to kill you. A furious roar exploded in his ear. Liam's body went rigid. He slammed on the brakes, the multi-million-dollar Rolls-Royce screeching to a halt at a red light. He would know that voice even if he were reduced to ash. Brother, he said softly. It was Hector Zhang, his senior in his college dorm, his once closest friend. Don't call me brother. I don't deserve it. Hector's voice was full of rage. You have the nerve to talk? It's bad enough you cut us off, but you divorced Chloe too? What did you promise us back then? Huh? It's only been 4 years, and you threw her away? Are you even human? The barrage of questions was like 1,000 steel needles piercing Liam's heart. He gripped the steering wheel, silent, letting the storm of concern and anger wash over him. A long line of cars formed behind him, but no one dared to honk, staring in awe at the license plate that read 9999. Why aren't you talking? You're a big shot now, so you don't even have to listen to me anymore. How could I dare? Liam gave a bitter smile. Brother, I was a real bastard these past few years. I made you all worry. Cut the crap. If I hadn't called Jenna Zhao, I still wouldn't know about any of this. Hector was clearly still furious. Where are you living now? The Baolong Apartments. Renting? Yeah. A sigh came from the other end. Is your messaging app still the same? I'll add you and send you some money. Get a better place. A friend request popped up on Liam's phone. The moment he accepted, a bright red transfer notification appeared. 3,000 yuan. Without a moment's hesitation, Liam hit return. But the simple gesture of that small amount was like a warm current flowing through his entire body. What the hell do you think you're doing? Hector's roar came again. Brother, I really don't need money right now. Don't give me that. Just take it. Consider it a loan. When you're rich, you can pay me back with interest. Hector said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Your big brother is a deputy supervisor at Lingnan Group now. I'm not short on a couple thousand. Just be a decent person and win Chloe back. That's more important than anything. Hanging up, Liam let out a long breath. That pure, brotherly bond had never changed, despite time and circumstance. At the quiet, elegant Zhou estate, Liam met Marcus Zhou. The man stood ramrod straight, with an aura like a drawn sword, yet his face held a warm smile. He was a perfect blend of authority and affability. Liam was neither servile nor arrogant, and his simple greeting of Uncle Zhou skillfully closed the distance between them. Over fragrant tea, the conversation eventually turned to Phoenix Pharmaceuticals. We're currently developing a cold medicine. We've seen some promising results, Liam said, casually tossing out the bait. Oh, both father and son were intrigued. It's just a semi-finished product, still in the testing phase, Liam explained calmly. We had 12 flu patients of different ethnicities tested. 10 of them recovered completely within 1 day. What? Even men as experienced as Marcus and Walter, Zhou couldn't help but exclaim in shock. They understood better than anyone the revolutionary power behind that simple statement. This wasn't just a drug. It was a chance for the nation's pharmaceutical industry, and the country itself, to hold its head high on the global stage. And the finished product? Walter asked, his voice trembling slightly. Most likely, a full recovery within 3 hours, effective for all populations worldwide. Marcus Zhou looked at Liam deeply, suppressing his shock. He changed the subject. Dad, the Gaweixing Bridge is about to be renovated. The city is planning to sell off 100,000 square meters of land there, but the investment is huge. I doubt anyone will be willing to be the sucker. Liam's heart leaped, a wave of ecstasy washing over him. Gaweixing Bridge, the golden heart of Azure Bay's economic center. This wasn't a sucker's project. This was a ladder to the heavens, handed to him by the Zhou family. I'll do it. I'll do it. He nearly jumped out of his seat, his face alight with undisguised excitement and desire. All the other capitalists are busy with their own interests. Uncle Mr. Zhou, don't trouble them. Let me be the sucker.